Disrupting Japan, Episode 19. Welcome to Disrupting Japan, straight talk from Japan's most successful entrepreneurs. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for listening. Today, we're talking about crowdfunding. Now, crowdfunding has grown more slowly and somewhat differently in Japan than it has in the US. The basics are the same, of course. Large numbers of people pledge small amounts of money to charitable causes to support them, innovative projects to get early access to the finished product, and to new companies to get a small slice of the equity. Ryotaro Nakayama, or Naka as his English-speaking friends call him, is an intrapreneur. He started working at CyberAgent as a driver, and 8 years later, he managed to convince his employer to create a crowdfunding platform called Makuake, and then to spin it out as a separate company with him as the CEO. It's an interesting journey. We also talk about how crowdfunding is, at least at the moment, benefiting the larger Japanese companies. But we also discuss how that's going to change in the future and how that might lead to a larger shift in Japanese society, and one that could very well lead to a startup renaissance here. But I'll let Naka tell you all about that. I'm sitting here with Ryotaro Nakayama of Makuake, a Japanese crowdfunding platform. So thanks for coming in and talking to us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Naka, we were talking before about how crowdfunding is just getting started in Japan, how it might change a lot of things here. But before we get into crowdfunding in particular, I think the story of how Makuake came to be is very interesting. So you were kind of an intrapreneur, right? You'd worked for CyberAgent. You created this division and they spun it out into a new company. Why don't you just tell us a bit about that process?
So first of all, when I was 23 years old, 2006, I joined to CyberAgent. First, my job was assistant of CEO.
Okay.
And CEO's driver.
Okay, that's a good job. It's at least you're connected to powerful people.
The reason why I got this position and I selected this position, I was not interested in actual internet. The things that I want to do is to create my new company. Being beside of CEO, that is the best way to learn how to create
a company. So did you just approach the CEO and say, hey, I have this crazy idea for a new company, you should fund it?
No. That time, couldn't get any fund from my CEO. The first next job is to create a new business inside of CyberAgent.
You created a division within CyberAgent.
Just division. This business was the point accumulating site.
So a site to help people manage their loyalty points and...
Yes, when people buy, they can get the point more than usual purchase.
And what happened to that division?
That division became very profitable division. I get many awards from CyberAgent.
Right.
Thanks to this experience, I got the chance to go to Vietnam as a venture capitalist.
Okay. Well, I guess in that way you get exposed to a lot of different kinds of companies and a lot of different types of businesses very quickly.
That was very lucky for me.
Yeah. So then did you just go to your venture partners and say, I have a perfect investment for you? Me.
Living in Vietnam, I saw very few Japanese product. I saw a lot of Korean product and the Chinese product.
What was the reason? Just cost?
It was not cost. Young business guys can earn only $300 per month as a salary. Want to buy iPhone that costs around $1,000.
Yes, everybody wants to buy an iPhone.
The things they borrow from their friend or parent
right.
to buy iPhone. The reason why Japanese product cannot bought is not cost. Japanese companies do not create the things that people want to buy.
Okay.
That is the biggest reason, I guess.
Huh. And how did that idea lead you to create the crowdfunding site?
By using crowdfunding site, product maker can try to create the things that they are not have confidence.
So you were thinking of it more as a way for large companies to test new products and gain marketing information rather than as individuals trying to fund their own projects.
Yes, in Japan, there are so many huge, very famous hardware companies.
So from the time you joined CyberAgent as an assistant to the CEO to the day you got funding for your new crowdfunding company, how long did that take?
Around 7 years.
Okay, well, you were certainly paying your dues inside the company with different projects and understanding different sections. Let's see, you launched it about 2 years ago, right?
2 years ago, yes.
Why don't you tell me a bit about your customers? What kind of companies are using Makuake?
Of course, the individual product maker using Makuake. Also, so huge company started to use Makuake. For example, Sony.
It's interesting in the difference between crowdfunding in the States and here. In the States, there's been some big companies using Kickstarter and Indiegogo as PR. But in Japan, it seems that the big companies were the early adopters. What's the big advantage to the large companies? Is it marketing? Is it PR? Is it product development? What do they get out of it?
The biggest reason is test marketing.
Okay.
They want to get the opinion from the end user by using crowdfunding.
And so they'll launch a project not under their own brand, but a kind of a stealth.
Some projects did like that because if they put on the brand name, users tend to start to buy because of brand name. Imagine about the Apple. Even this beer,
people
called Apple beer.
People will buy anything with the Apple logo
Yes.
on it. That's true. So it's a more honest way of test marketing. And in fact, Sony, you mentioned Sony. Sony famously last year in America launched the mesh product on Indiegogo.
Yes.
But before that, their very first experiment was on your platform, right?
Yes.
What was it? It was a watch? What was the project?
First project was e-paper watch
An e-paper watch.
called Face Watch.
What happened with that project? Did Sony turn it into a new product with the Sony brand?
They don't have any plan to put their brand to this product. They want to create a new brand.
In Japan, it seems that crowdfunding is being used mostly by large companies for test marketing. On the customer side, what type of people are using your platform and buying these products?
The users tend to be people who really want to get new, exciting product.
Okay.
They don't care whether the creator is individual or big company. The important thing for them is the creator is very high quality creator.
So on the customer side, it sounds very similar to the customers for crowdfunding in America and Europe.
Yes.
It's so far most of the really big hits from crowdfunding have been Japanese who've used Kickstarter or Indiegogo. So is it starting to take off among individual makers here in Japan?
Last year, Japanese creator started to use crowdfunding in Japan. It is very difficult for them to use foreign crowdfunding platform because of the language. This is the biggest reason they want to use Japanese crowdfunding.
It would seem that since the large companies are not using their own brand, it'd be very easy for individual creators to compete fairly.
Even big company doesn't have big budget to create things at first time.
Well, yeah, being able to raise funds helps, being able to get budget helps you if you're an individual with an idea or you're the head of a division in a company. Everyone's trying to raise funding one way or another.
Because I was a venture capitalist, I can understand the situation in the outside of the big companies. Totally new entrepreneur can get more big fund from the venture capitalist to their business. The Sony subsidiary companies or other big companies inside of business.
That's an interesting point. So, well, certainly in today's funding environment, I guess it is easier for individuals to raise money with a new company and a new idea than it is for people inside a big company to get funding.
Yes. So that
I had not thought of it that way, but that's an interesting point.
Even the project inside of the big companies, not directly, they can easily use very big amount of the budget.
Right. I remember 3 or 4 years ago when crowdfunding was clearly becoming successful overseas, a lot of people were very skeptical about Japan. They were just saying that it was not suitable for Japan. What do Japanese consumers really expect from crowdfunding? Japanese consumers are famously hard to please and care about quality and care about things being exactly right. Has that been a problem for you as you've grown?
Not only me, but also any Makuake user, crowdfunding user in Japan, want to get the very new and a very exciting, very innovative product. Japanese crowdfunding platform started as charity site.
That's right. The first ones were charities for the earthquake.
Yes. Many Japanese users' image of crowdfunding is charity site.
Okay.
That was a very big hurdle for us to create the creative crowdfunding platform like a Kickstarter and Indiegogo.
Right, right.
Many high quality creators didn't notice that crowdfunding is for them.
So one of the things that overseas platforms have had trouble with, it has been products that have not been delivered, products that the founders couldn't make, for example. Have you run into those problems in Japan, and how did you solve them?
The one thing that I can say is Japanese creator has very big responsibility for their product compared to foreign countries. So that Japanese product quality is number one quality. Japanese creator has pride.
So in a sense, I guess you're saying yes, the Japanese customers are very demanding about quality, but that's matched because the creators are also very demanding about quality just as much.
Many Japanese are not good at presentation of their idea.
Right.
So that many creators' presentation is lower than actual quality. So that the final product tends to be better than the presentation one.
Okay, so they under-promise and over-deliver. Well, that's a happy situation for everybody. But how are you planning on handling things as it grows? So, for example, Indiegogo has had products that were almost scams. Like they had a Heelbee last year that raised like about $1 million. So are you concerned that as your platform gets more and more popular, that there will be either people trying to sell low quality products or outright scams? And how are you going to stop that from happening?
Before the project I put on the Makuake, we check and interview with the creators, and we check whether they have ability to create their idea or not.
So you check their backgrounds, you talk to them on the phone or IM. How do you vet them? How do you check them out?
About almost project creators, we met directly.
Face to face?
At this. Yes, face to
wow,
face.
Okay.
The people who doesn't live in Tokyo or nearby Tokyo, at least we call and talk with telephone or Skype.
That's a very interesting approach. I mean, so in a sense, well, sometimes it is important to do things that don't scale. Really, crowdfunding platforms, well, any platform is based on trust. I guess you're really trying to ensure that Makuake is a trusted platform, even if it means you grow more slowly.
So the most important thing is platform should be very trustful platform. So we very carefully check the creator's ability.
So about what percent do you say, no, sorry, you can't list on Makuake?
It's around the 30% is very low quality creator that cannot create the idea. And 20%, they need brush up.
So you have 30% that just aren't ready to use your platform, 20% that need brush up, and 50% that are okay.
Okay.
So for the 20% that need brush up, do you help them and give them advice about how to use your platform and run a good project?
Yes, we advise how to use crowdfunding. It means creating reward, how much goal should be, something like that.
How many projects are active? How many projects did you run last year, or how many projects are active right now, so we get a sense of size and scale?
Today, around 200 project is running in Makuake.
Okay.
And one project tend to be around a 2 month project. So that 1 month, around 100 projects is starting at this time.
So what percentage of those end up fully funded and making a product?
In terms of this, very hard to say. I can say around 50% project can get fully funding and reach the goal. But we have two courses. One course is like a Kickstarter, all or nothing.
Okay.
And the other thing is maybe Indiegogo says flexible goals.
Okay. So that people get paid whatever goes in. So 50% are fully funded and the other 50 are partially or...
The important thing is the ratio of success rate, environment or atmosphere to try everything is very important thing for crowdfunding platform, because 100% project can success. Maybe I hesitate to use crowdfunding if only my project failed to...
Certainly in the large companies, I bet the attitude about what is failure is changing, because it sounds like a lot of these big companies are looking for feedback and information. So even a failure, it still is far cheaper for them to find out that the market does not want this product using Makuake than it is using traditional market research and study groups. So even the failures aren't really failures in some cases.
Even failure said to us, they are happy to use this because they can understand what is the end user thinking about their product.
It gives them a direct connection to the customers that they can't have any other way right now. So I'm sure they're delighted to use it. One thing I'm curious about, so Japan in general, both consumers and business are very conscious of brands and trends and hierarchies. How do you break through this? So right now your customers are mostly people who are super early adopters. They're people who want the latest cool thing. But that, even in Japan, is kind of a small group. Do you plan on being able to break out of that and have a larger audience? Or are you really trying to stay focused on these new super early adopters?
It's going to be very difficult to jump up to the early majorities. I guess gradually we should try to ask makers to use crowdfunding when they create new products.
So step by step?
Yes, step by step.
Do most people who are starting a project, do they bring their own funders and do their own marketing? Or is there a pool of people, a pool of Makuake fans who invest in lots of different projects?
Around maybe 30% of the backer from Makuake fund user.
Oh, okay.
And other come from maybe around many media. It means the Gizmo or Engadget or that kind of media can send the user to Makuake.
So of course every project's different, but in general about 30% are the core Makuake fans looking for new things, and about 70% is the product team marketing and articles written about it coming in.
Not creators marketing.
Okay.
Makuake's PR marketing. This is a very unique thing.
Okay, tell me about that then.
Makuake has a very good PR team. The quality is almost number one in internet industry, I guess.
Well, the CyberAgent connection, I'm sure, helps quite a bit there.
Yes, this is very useful. But the team itself create the relationship to the many medias.
Right.
So that which medias is suitable to this project. They introduce the project to public media, and of course, the media writers like this project.
And so is this the PR service? I guess it's an optional service that the projects can use.
Yes, but freely.
You don't charge for it.
Yeah, we don't charge.
So right now, what's the most popular kind of projects on Makuake?
Same as US hardware.
Internet of Thingsy
yes,
kind of hardware.
IoT. Recently, we should say IoE.
Internet of everything?
Internet of everything.
Everything. Okay. Yeah, sure. I think outside of Japan, most of our listeners won't know about CyberAgent, but they are, in Japan, a very powerful and innovative force in the, well, mostly online internet space. But they've been branching out into venture capital and quite a few other things. So your sister company, CyberAgent Ventures, have they invested in companies or projects they found on Makuake?
Happily, last month or 2 months ago, the one startup company can get seed funding from CyberAgent Ventures after they used Makuake crowdfunding platform.
Awesome. What do they make? What's the company?
That startup is making the platform for haircut stylist.
For hairstylist.
And, cut model.
So it's a platform for hairstylists and for cut model? So it's people to practice on?
Yes, so people...
Yeah, I never thought about it. I guess that you need people to practice on.
So very specific industry.
Yeah, that is a vertical.
Yes. In order to get the professional position, haircut stylists should do training to cutting.
Sure, they have to practice a lot, I'm sure.
A lot of, so that they need a huge amount of hair. And opposite side, the people who want to cut their hair.
Yeah. So they're matching up hairstylists who want to cut hair with people who want free haircuts.
Yes.
And are willing to take a chance.
Of course, after finish, the professional haircut stylist can tweak.
Like double check.
Yeah, double check and
fix anything if there's too much damage. I love businesses like that. It never occurred to me before, but yes, obviously that's a matching service. What was their product on Makuake?
They tried crowdfunding to create their service site.
Oh, okay. So they were crowdfunding for the product itself.
Yes. Very seed funding around, I remember, $3,000 because they was a university student.
Right.
Going to university and creating their startup, but they don't have any money, didn't have any money, so that they should use crowdfunding to create their first product.
Right. I'm going to ask you to predict the future here. Crowdfunding is still very new in Japan, but it's growing rapidly. It started out for charities, social causes. It's now being used a lot for projects and artistic work. And just last year, the Japanese government changed the law allowing companies to raise equity using crowdfunding. Over the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think crowdfunding in Japan is going to look like? What are the changes we're going to see?
I think the Kickstarter, like it means Makuake, continue growing by being used from many product creators. Many big hardware companies' employees started to quit their company to create a new startup.
Right.
Sometimes they must quit. There are so many creators at this time, and from now, the number of the independent creator increasing.
This is something when I travel to the US and Europe, the image of Japan is as a non-creative country.
Mm-hmm.
But in truth, there is amazing amounts of creativity in Japan. But I think the problem Japan has always had is it's very difficult for that creativity to kind of bubble up and get exposure. So you're saying that crowdfunding is perhaps the best way for that creativity to bubble up and get exposure now.
Encouraging the creators by crowdfunding, the number of creators should be increasing, I guess. As I say, there are so many big successful hardware makers in Japan. Recently, people quit the big hardware companies, started to join to the hardware ventures. So that almost every hardware venture in Japan has people who have experience to work in Sony and Panasonic and Toshiba, so on. Even independent or startup companies has ability to create very good hardware or
so they understand quality control and outsource process. And I think a flip side of that, though, is that a lot of the creative talent at companies like Sharp and Pioneer and Sony have not really been treated that well over the last 30 or 40 years. If this trend continues, I think it's going to cause some of the large Japanese companies to change the way they treat employees, to treat these people better, to prevent them from going out and starting their own companies and leaving.
On the other hand of the startup situation, the big companies started to create the trial division.
Right.
Yeah, Sony started to have trial division to create new product. So many employees of Sony started to create new product. One of them is Mesh, as you said.
The watch.
And one of them is Face Watch. And one of them is Curio Smart Lock. One famous fund called Wheel and Sony create new companies to create new product that use Sony technology.
Okay.
Yeah, entrepreneur itself coming from outside of Sony, but the companies can use Sony technology.
So the big companies are reaching outside of themselves to find creative talent.
I guess many big companies should imitate this kind of way to create.
But this is a big change for Japan. Traditionally, I mean, forever, basically in Japan, big companies had their own R&D staff. It was highly secretive. The whole concept of open innovation is still kind of mistrusted here. So this is a big step, and I think a good one.
I think the only way to survive this very competitive hardware era, the Japanese company should try to create new products, as many as possible.
So you think that even the larger companies will try to create more and faster and smaller batch?
Yes. So maybe this should be called lean startup, I guess.
I think so. But the lean startup, I'm always amazed people don't know this, but the lean methodology was invented by a large Japanese corporation. The lean methodology, you didn't know that. Toyota invented lean.
Kaizen?
Yeah. So everything kind of comes full circle.
Yes. So the crowdfunding is one of the best way to do lean startup, I guess.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to tell our listeners about crowdfunding or the future of Japanese innovation? Or
many of listeners not Japanese, so please wait. Very innovative products from Japan, not Apple.
I think there are amazingly innovative products coming out of here. I think that's a wonderfully optimistic place to wrap up on. So thanks for sitting down and talking to me.
Thank you too.
All right. And we're back. The amount of effort that Makuake invests into ensuring that projects are valid and that the end result is high quality is really impressive. But it should not really be that surprising to anyone who's done business in Japan for a long time. Still, though, meeting their creatives face-to-face as part of their due diligence was something I'd not expected. But then, quality and trust really are everything in Japan. So growing more slowly, doing things that don't scale, but doing it in a way that allows you to maintain quality and trust makes a lot of sense here. I also found it interesting that the quality equation cancels out, in that the exceptionally high quality demanded by Japanese consumers was balanced out by the exceptionally high quality bar that Japanese makers set for themselves. The other key takeaway from this, and we'll explore this in detail in an upcoming podcast, is the migration of top talent from Japan's manufacturers into small startups. There are a lot of hardware startups here that are staffed with people with decades of real-world hardware development and production experience. No matter what country you live in, you'll be hearing a lot from these founders and their companies in the near future. Now, if you want to see the links and the information that Naka and I talked about during the show, or to get in touch, go to disruptingjapan.com/show019, and you'll find all of that and much, much more in the resources section of the post. If you've got an interesting crowdfunding experience or are thinking of giving it a try, drop by the site and let us know what you think about it. We'd love to hear from you. And if you get a chance, please leave us an honest review on iTunes. That's really the best way you can help support the show and get the word out. But most of all, thanks for listening, and thank you for letting people interested in Japanese startups know about the show. This is Tim Romero, and thanks for listening to Disrupting Japan.